Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. I'm Professor Smita Mangesh Zumnarkar. Welcome you in my YouTube channel. Today's topic is Introduction to Programming. Now, in this video section, we are going to cover what is computer program as well as programming, what is basically programming, what do compiler do, why do we need an interpreter, as well as we are going to see the life cycle of computer program. So let's begin with our section. First of all, what is a computer program? So program is nothing but there is a set of instructions which are given to the machine to perform specific tasks. It could be your syntax, it could be your coding form, or maybe it could be your simple instructions which we are giving to the machine to perform the calculation. So it is a series of binary numbers. Basically, computer understand the binary language, that is zeros and ones, that are arranged in a sequence which when given to the computer to perform the specific task. So computer is a dumb machine, means it's not having any brain. So each and every instructions we have to give in the specific format. It could be your flow chart, it could be your algorithms, any way you can give the instruction. So calculations, it could be that is a scientific calculations we can do, but it cannot be performed or task on its own. Means machine can't perform by its own. Instructions we have to provide them. So this set of instructions that combined in the computer program. Computer programs are basically in the binary language, that is a series of zeros and ones. So large bunch of program that makes computer functional, without which the computer would be like to paralyze the machine. So you may think computer as an idiot person who does not know to cook. If you provide the ingredient for cooking pasta to that idiot person who can't expect a delicious dish. However, if you provide the ingredient along with the full step by step recipe of cooking pasta, then you may expect the real pasta from that idiot person. Same is the concept with computer. For computers, the ingredients are called as a data, that is a raw material. So it could be your integer, it could be string, image, video, anything. And recipe is your program. Now, what basically programming? Programming is a process of writing algorithm into sequence of computer instructions, because directly we can't write the program, we can't create. If I said you just write the program on the game, it's very difficult for us to write the coding for gaming until and unless you are having the steps, that is called as a flowchart or algorithm. Simple example you can consider, for example, to build a building. Engineer is having a rough plan, that is a blueprint of each every floor. So it becomes the easy task. So in short, that is called as a programming. We should have the rough plan, we should have the flow chart, we should have the algorithm. Then only we can process that raw data into proper instructions or into program. So basically it is a transforms the solution of specific problem into computer language. So it is the only way through which we can create our own program and can we execute them on the computer or any electronic device. So programming requires the skill, logical thinking, and lots of experience. Programmers are the person who writes the program in specific computer programming language. They are highly skilled, hardworking, and problem solver. First programmer was Ada Lovelace. She was widely known for her work on the Charles Baker's analytical engine. This is a basically general purpose mechanical computer. Now, after that, compiler. What basically compiler do? Apart from translating the source code from high level language to low level. Now, high level language are nothing but your programming language. Either C, C++, Java, COBOL, Pascal, such types of languages are called as a high level programming language. Okay, that is a programming languages are called as a high level language. And low level languages are nothing but your machine languages. That is your compiler, assembler are called as a low level languages. Compiler has other responsibilities too. After reading the source code written in the high level language, it performs the below operation. First part, that is perform a pre-processing of source code. That is your hash include. It's your preprocessor. Gathered all the files required for source code to compile. After that, parses the entire source code, checks for any syntax error in the source code, perform through syntax analysis of source code, understand that source and systematic of source code, optionally translates the source code in the intermediate code which is known as object code to enhance the performance, and final one, that is translate the object code to binary language which is called as a executable code. Now, why basically we need the interpreter? First and vital need for interpreter is to translate the source code from high level language to machine language. However, for the purpose these exist, another program is called compiler. The compiler also translates the source code from high level language to machine language. So why we need an interpreter when there exists a similar software compiler? Real need for interpreter comes where the compiler fails. So to satisfy the software development needs, the compiler is a very powerful tool for developing the program in high level language. However, there are several determinants associated with the compiler. If the source code is a huge in size, then it might take the hours to compile the source code, which will significantly increase the compilation duration because it's a very lengthy. So it will take time to execute each and every line. Here interpreter comes handy and can cut these huge compilation duration. So interpreter basically designed to translate the single instructions at a time, and it will execute that immediately. So it will save the time also. An interpreter also comes handy when you frequently update the source code, as if it takes 5 minutes to compile the entire source code. If you have updates it 5 times, just assume that then the total compilation time becomes 25 minutes because every 5 minutes you are updating it, so which is significantly very big task. However, if we use the interpreter, we can reduce that compiler time. Now, let's see the difference between compiler as well as interpreter. Compiler, it translates the entire program to machine code at once only. That's why it's very time consuming. An interpreter, it translates the single instruction of program at a time. So execution duration required is a very less over here. Next, compiler require more translation time as I have told, and interpreter required less translation time. Compiler program execution is faster than interpreter language, and program execution is slower in interpreter comparatively compiler. Compiler, it usually generates the additional intermediate code. Interpreter doesn't create such kind of intermediate codes. Compiler, it requires more memory as it generates the extra object code. But when we will compare this with interpreter, it requires the less memory as it does not generate any kind of intermediate code. Compiler, errors are displayed at the end of the compilation process, and in interpreter, errors are displayed as they made. Within the compiler, executable code need to be deployed, and within the interpreter, source code need to be deployed. Now you can see within the compiler executable code which we required for the deployed, and within the interpreter source code which required or which needs to be deployed. Examples of compiler such as your C, C++, Java languages, and example of interpreter such as Ruby, Python, shell scripts, etc. Now let's see the life cycle of computer program. Computer program goes through many phases from its development to execution, from the human readable format, that is a source code, to binary encoded computer instruction, that is a machine code. Here in this section, I will be explaining the different phases of programs during its entire lifespan. You can see this is a source code, that is a human readable format, and then it get encoded to the machine code, that is the machine which is understanding the binary language. So it will encode it into binary form. Now source code क्या है that we will see. Source code is a plain text file containing the computer instruction. So you can see this is a simple C code, that is my source code, written in human readable language. So easily we can read this. So it is a simple text file written by programmer. It contains the instruction in high level language that the programmer intended to perform by the program. So source code is later compiled and translated to object code. Moving further, object code. So object code is a sequence of computer instructions as an intermediate language. It generated by the compiler after the compilation process. So compiler reads the source code written in the high level language and translate it into the intermediate language. So after translation, a file containing instruction encoded in some intermediate language is generated by the object code. So this is my basically object code, that is in the form of binary, zeros and ones. Note, intermediate language may and may not be machine language. Despite of being in binary language, object code cannot be executed by its own as they lack the machine entry point. Various object codes are further linked together by linker to generate the final executable file. Now, moving further, that is a machine code. So machine code is set of computer instructions which are written or translates in the machine language. So it is a final executable file generated by compiling, assembling and linking several object files together. So it is the only code which is executed by CPU. Machine code and object code both are encoded in the machine language and they may seem to be similar in nature. However, you can directly execute machine code whereas object code cannot be executed on their own. Machine code is a result of linking several object files together, whereas object code is a result of translating source code of single module or program. Module is nothing but we are dividing the larger program into small module. Let's assume the game. The game program we have divided into small modules such as animation, level, sound, like that. So machine code always contains an entry point to the program, while object code does not contain any entry point. You can have a glance. These are the popular programming languages such as Java, C, C++. These are suited for and popular software developers. Again, Python, C Sharp, PHP, JavaScript, SQL, Ruby. Basically, PHP, JavaScripts are used for web developments. SQL is for database and Ruby is for website development. Thank you students for watching my videos.